Welcome back everyone to another short sermon. This video is supposed to be for May 23rd Sunday. However, I am a few weeks late. The title of this sermon is called The Fruit of the Spirit, Part 4. And today I'm going to talk about the fourth fruit, patience. The book of Galatians, chapter 5, verses 22 and 23 says, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law." Now I'm going to keep quoting that scripture for all these videos of these series. Now, I'm going to quote some more scripture. Turn to the book of Romans, chapter 12, verse 12, and it says here, "Rejoice in hope, be patient in affliction, be persistent in prayer." Alright, now, turn to the book of Ephesians, chapter 4, verse 2, and it says here, "With all humility and gentleness, with patience, accepting one another in love." Remember, love is the bond of all of the fruits of the Spirit. Alright, now, turn to the book of Lamentations, chapter 3, verses 25 to 27. I know, the book of Lamentations is a negative book, but in the middle chapter of the book, we find some positive in it. And it says here in this paragraph, "The Lord is good to those who wait for Him." To the person who seeks Him, it is good to wait quietly for deliverance from the Lord. It is good for a man to bear the yoke while he is still young. Now I want to explain the scripture for a little while. First of all, nowhere in this passage mentions the word patience, but it mentions the word wait, which means the same thing. Now, it says, it is good to wait quietly. What does that mean? It means, when everyone else is being loud around you, it's best just to stay quiet and listen to God. Be quiet and let the future do its business. Also, it says, it is good for a man to bear the yoke while he is still young. True, because if you are going through a tough time while you are young, then you will be better immune to whatever happens next when you get older. Alright? Now, turn to the book of Psalm, chapter 40, verse 1. And it says here, "I waited patiently for the Lord, and He turned to me and heard my cry for help." Alright? Now, there is a difference between, and we see here that the Christians are waiting patiently for the day of the Lord. They are waiting expectantly. Now, on the other side, the unchristians are afraid of the day of the Lord. Alright, so that is the two differences right there. But we should not be afraid of the day of the Lord if God is on our side. Now, turn to the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 13, verse 4. Now, this is the love chapter, but it mentions that love is patient and love is kind. Alright? Now, I would say that patience is related to a green apple. You know why? Because it takes a while to actually chew the apple down to its core. Unlike other fruit where you could just throw it in your mouth and chew it, an apple takes a while to devour it, and it's hard. They would usually have a red apple for love and a green apple for patience. Now, an apple is in the same shape as a fist, and a fist is in the same shape as a heart. So an apple is in the same shape as a heart. To make this sermon longer, I'm going to mention a Bible story. Moses led the Israelites out of the land of Egypt into the wilderness. And do you know how long they stayed in the wilderness? For 40 years. Now, why did it take so long? Well, it did not have to take that long. They could have went straight to the promised land. But if you read the story of the 12 spies that were sent to scout out the land, you will see that 2 of them came with a positive report, and 10 of them came with a negative report. Considering the majority of them came with a negative report, the vote was that they were going to stay in the wilderness. And they complained. You gotta figure, we would have done the same thing. Probably even more so. So the Israelites complained, and as a result, they died in the desert. And they were not allowed to go to the promised land. However, their children were allowed to go in the promised land. Now some people think, oh look, the children of Israel were disobedient. Actually, I read the Bible for myself and found out that they were obedient. The problem is that the children's children were disobedient, and they turned to other gods. Alright? So it is important to teach your children about God while they're still young. Now, we see here that not even Moses could enter the promised land. You know why? Because there was the story where the Israelites lacked water, and Moses held out his staff and struck the rock, and nothing happened. He struck it a second time, and water came out of it. The problem was that Moses had pride. Well, God was displeased about this. Very displeased to the point that Moses could not enter the promised land. You gotta figure, Moses was an old man, but he was not fully mature. You see, when Moses was 40 years old, he entered Egypt, and he was still not mature. You can read the story in the 2nd chapter of Exodus. So God sent him back home for another 40 years. And then when he turned 80, he saw the burning bush. However, Moses was still not fully mature, because God told him to speak to Pharaoh, but Moses made excuses instead. So, maturity is a lifelong commitment. It's continuous, and it takes a lot of patience to be mature. We also see here that the Israelites lacked nothing. They could have survived in the desert if they did not complain. They had food, manna, they had water, and they had shelter. And not even their shoes worn out. So, as with this current time, we are supposed to be patient. Everyone's going through an issue right now, and we are wondering when it's going to be over. But the point is not to wait for it to be over, because the more we wait, the worse it gets. And it's going to get worse. So, instead of waiting for it to be over, how about if we just try to endure it? We just have to endure a lifetime. Now, God's timing is perfect. Whatever happens, whether it's breakthrough, it's going to happen at the perfect timing. Alright? Now we think that now would be the best time. However, there are certain reasons why God has us to wait. Maybe for us to be more mature. The opposite of patience is haste. And I think there's a verse in the Bible that says haste makes mistakes. So, instead of being hasty, we can be slower and do things right. Some teenagers try to rush life. They want to graduate high school, enter college, graduate college, and they want to get a driver's license and buy a new car, and they want to move out, and then they want to get married. Well, life does not always go this way. When teenagers do rush it, they end up making a mistake, and they get in trouble for it. You cannot just go out there and do whatever you want to do right now. You know why? Because this is a scary world, and we do not know what kind of predators are behind those bushes. So it's safer just to stay at home. Instead of taking action and doing something about the issue, let's just watch and see what happens next. Everyone is watching to see what happens next, whether they like it or not, and it is going to happen. Now, we cannot predict the future. We do not need to know when or how the issue is going to be resolved, but when it does happen, then we will better know when and how it happened. So, I am out of time for today, and I will come back next time as I talk about the fifth fruit. In the meantime, see you later.